Of God who answers prayers and tells us, do more. Amen. I had a quick little vacation last week. It's good to be among you again. And part of our trip was connecting with places we used to live in New York State. We drove all the way across the New York State Thruway from the west to the east. And I'm wondering, have any of you been to the Finger Lakes region of New York? Yeah, it's beautiful. If all you ever think of with New York is either Niagara Falls or New York City, you're missing a whole lot of beauty in New York State. And the Finger Lakes are right in the middle, and they're long, skinny, like it looks like somebody took a claw and just went, but they're beautiful. And we drove by some of our old places that we used to go, including the little town of Canandaigua, which is one of the exits. Canandaigua sits right at the tip of Canandaigua in the Finger Lakes. And what most people may not remember is that that area of New York was really a stronghold for the anti-slavery movement, the abolition movement. That was where people gathered to have speeches, and the presses of William Lloyd Garrison and other things were all based in that Finger Lakes region. And there it became the home of Frederick Douglass and several other people who were really influential in calling our country to account for justice and injustice. And in a speech that he made in Canandaigua, Frederick Douglass said in 1857, "Power concedes nothing without a demand. It never did, and it never will. Find out just what any people will quietly submit to, and you have found out the exact measure of injustice and wrong which will be imposed upon them. And these will continue till they are resisted, with either words or blows or with both. The limits of tyrants are prescribed by the endurance of those whom they oppress." 1857, before the Civil War began, and how prophetic his words would be. And I think as we look around us in the world today at the levels of injustice and how we all seem to have just gotten used to things being terrible in so many parts of the world, including our own country, I wonder if we need a prophet like Frederick Douglass again to say, wake up, do something. So often we see terrible things happening, the gun violence again and again, other forms of violence against people, and the leaders say, our thoughts and prayers are with them. Thoughts and prayers. Is that the best we can do against injustice? Sometimes if it's a tremendous, overwhelming tragedy like the hurricane completely wiping out a city, there's not a whole lot you or I up here can do unless we've got the skills and talents to go down and help rebuild, and sometimes thoughts and prayers are what we can offer. But so often there's a whole lot more, and people who are in a position to do something about injustice have written it off and say, thoughts and prayers. Is that what Jesus is professing and encouraging in this gospel? Just think and pray hard enough, long enough, and you'll get what you want? Is that what this parable is about? It has been interpreted that way. But I think we are missing the little word that pops up in there, justice. Justice. God has justice in mind for our country. We're coming to a time of year when you can't watch anything on TV without hearing political campaign ads. It's gotten to the point where I wanted to watch the news, and I was just about ready to throw something at my television and switch back over to Netflix where I don't have to watch a lot of this stuff, because just the so negative, so awful, and so little actually talking about what is critically important in our world. Justice for the least, the smallest, the vulnerable. And justice for all people, regardless of how much money, power they have. And justice means different things to different people. But to the widow in our gospel, we have no idea what her problem was. We don't know, but she wants justice. And as a widow, that was the most vulnerable population in Jesus' day. Widows who didn't have family members to take them in were really completely at the mercy of the system of care or no care. So when the judge refuses to listen to her for a long time, he is breaking God's law. But then we're told he doesn't care about God. Jesus says real God is different than the judge. The real God hears the cries of those who are being oppressed. And will they do more than just pray? Will they take action with their faith? Jesus' friends at this point, when Jesus says he needs to get them to have heart, he had been telling them about how rough things are going to get in his life and theirs. They are heading toward Jerusalem. He's told them, I'm not going to be with you a whole lot longer. They're saying, oh, don't say that, don't say that. And he's saying, it's going to happen. Just look at how things are lining up. It's going to happen. So hang in there and have faith. When the Son of Man comes back, will he find faith? What is faith about? What is faith about? Our message this fall for stewardship is, what is your faith like when the rubber hits the road? I'm going to be asking for stories. When has your faith really made the difference when you came up against something? When the rubber really hit the road in your life, whether it was a crisis or it was a death or it was a challenge, did your faith come into play? Did it make a difference? Will God find you hung in there because of faith? Faith is more than just hoping for pie in the sky by and by, as someone famously said. Faith is trusting God is active in the world. I look around sometimes and I wonder, honestly, if I'm praying to God like the widow, calling out, hey, judge, we need help, we need help, we need help, we need help. And then I see people who are willing to take that faith into action and do something, to put their own beliefs into action, whether that is participating in a gathering, whether that is taking on a challenge, whether it's starting a new business or a new campaign against injustices, whether it is getting people to sign up and march or whatever that might be. But as Frederick Douglass recognized so long ago, if we just put up with it, tyranny and oppression will continue as far as they can get. As far as they can get, until we say, no, that's not good. Where does your faith make a difference in your life? Where does your prayer life come to a point where it says, God, I know you're listening. Help me to do something now? When do you say, thoughts and prayers, that just doesn't cut it anymore? Each of us has something we care passionately about. Each of us has a length to which we say, I got to do something now. Each of us has an opportunity to say, you know what, God, I am going to trust in your love for me and for the justice that is needed, and I'm going to step out and risk a little bit. And then maybe risk a little more. And then maybe risk a bit more when we see that God is on our side. Everybody claims God's on their side, don't they? So how do we know God's on our side? Because we're Episcopalians. Because we try to follow Jesus. Because we try to listen to what Jesus says. Every Sunday, he tells us something. Every Sunday, we have an opportunity to get a glimpse again. When Jesus says, God is interested in justice, are we listening? When he says, God knows your faith will be tested, keep going, that's for us too. As you look around the world and see the things that need our attention, that need our prayers, yes, and need more than our prayers, here's the time when the rubber hits the road for my faith. Don't be afraid to go for it. That is exactly what the world needs. May you know that you do not walk alone, because Jesus is right there with us. In the name of him who said, have faith, do prayer, go for justice. Amen.
Amen.